The Empress of the Ixari did not dream. She didn't have to. With the sight, a gift bestowed upon her bloodline by an ancient entity woven into the fabric of spacetime, she saw every possibility the moment a choice was made. Forks in the road, the blooming paths of action and consequence, spread out before her like crystal fractals. War, peace, betrayal, love, none of it could touch her unprepared. For 300 solar cycles, she had ruled with the cold assurance of someone who knew the ending to every story, until he entered her throne room. The human ambassador's name was irrelevant. His species had always been outliers in the tapestry of fate. Chaotic, logical, often self-destructive, yet harmless in the larger scale of the cosmos. So when the Empress prepared to meet the Terran emissary, Commander Dorian Vale, she did so with mild curiosity and no real concern. He approached in that loose, confident way humans walked, with slightly unkempt hair and a stance that screamed military, despite the ceremonial robe he'd been given. But it wasn't his swagger or his stubborn eyes that disrupted the fabric of causality. It was his scent. As he neared, a wave of something primal slammed into her like a rogue comet. Her visions, once perfect and unshakable, fractured. Where there should have been infinite lines of probable futures, was fog. Where certainty once ruled, was silence. "Your Majesty," Dorian said, bowing shallowly. The Empress did not answer. She couldn't. Because for the first time since she was crowned, she could not see past a moment. Middle. Alarms echoed in her private mind-link chamber. Advisors scrambled to isolate the cause. They tested his DNA, his breath, even his skin for psychoactive pheromones or forbidden tech. Nothing. Not a single artifact or biological trait could explain how this human, this male, had appended her sight. In the privacy of her chambers, she stared into the fractal mirror where timelines usually danced and branched, spiraling in endless complexity. But now it was static, murky. The only constant thread through the fog was him. Dorian Vale. She summoned him again. This time under the pretense of diplomatic consultation, but when he entered, she dismissed her guards. It was a reckless act, but she needed to know. "Do you know what you are?" she asked him bluntly. Dorian raised an eyebrow. "I was told I'm a diplomat. Most days, I feel like a glorified mailman. You are an anomaly, an interference in the weave of reality. Your presence disrupts the very sight that governs my reign." "Well," he said, scratching the back of his neck, "some people just have that effect on women." Her stare could have turned stars to ash. "I am not people," he smirked. "So I've noticed." But beneath his humor, she felt the pulse of something else, unflinching honesty. Most species, when in the presence of the Empress, either groveled or trembled. He did neither. "I am warning you, Terran. Stay away from me." And yet, she summoned him again the next day. And the next became routine. A chess match of sorts, with barbed words and silent tension thick enough to warp gravity. He'd bring Terran idioms that confused her. She'd challenge him with puzzles meant to humble. But always, beneath it all, a slow-burning question throbbed between them like a second heartbeat. Why does he break my visions? Her scientists proposed theories. Subconscious reality-bending abilities, quantum soul interference, even that her own sight had reached its cosmic expiration. But none fit. Until he touched her. It was an accident. He had helped her steady a data crystal that began to fall. But the instant his fingers brushed hers, she gasped. In that moment, time didn't stop. It exploded. Futures poured into her, not as forks or branches, but as flashes of emotion. Not abstract probabilities, but visceral experiences. A battlefield where he shielded her from plasma fire. A moonlit lake where she laughed in his arms. A birthing chamber where she screamed his name. A funeral where he died to save her people. And still more futures. Thousands. All with him. Not always romantic. Sometimes enemies, sometimes allies. Sometimes he betrayed her. Sometimes she let him die. But he was always there. The axis of every major event. It was too much. She staggered back, clawing her breath from the thick air. Her guards entered, weapons raised, but she waved them off. He looked shaken too. "I saw things," she whispered. "So did I," he admitted, voice hoarse. I felt what you feel. Every version of us." For the first time in centuries, the Empress was terrified. Not of war, but of fate. Her sight, once the most powerful force in the Empire, had become obsessed with him. She tried to avoid him. She exiled him from court, silenced his name in the halls, forbade any data regarding humans. Didn't work. Every time she touched the mirror, he was there. Not as an anomaly, as a pivot. The sight was not breaking. It was choosing. Her advisors noticed. Some whispered betrayal. Others prepared coups. But she didn't care. Because one morning, she found herself walking toward his diplomatic quarters with no escort, no guards, and no mask of statecraft. Just herself. And questions. He opened the door like he'd been expecting her. "I can't make sense of any of it," she admitted quietly. "Neither can I," he replied. "But maybe we're not supposed to." She looked at him. The scent that once disoriented her now anchored her. "You make me weak," she said. "No," he corrected gently. "I make you uncertain. That's different." She laughed, a bitter, shaken thing. Uncertainty for an empress is death. Or evolution. Ending. The rebellion came faster than she'd predicted. Her cousin, the Warden of Stars, had noticed her instability and declared her unfit. Fleets mobilized. Worlds chose sides. The Empire teetered. And yet she did not falter. Instead, she walked onto the command bridge of her flagship, not in armor, not cloaked in prophecy, but in full vulnerability. And at her side was the human. The crew whispered. Some spat in silence. But none dared question her. "Are you sure?" Dorian asked. "No," she replied. "And that's how I know it's right." They moved as one. She no longer commanded the future, she engaged it. Fought beside it. Loved within it. The first battle was brutal. Her cousin used her former predictions against her. He'd stolen fragments of her vision, predicting when and where she'd strike. But Dorian was unreadable. His strategies broke logic. He took risks no other would. And somehow they worked. Because he wasn't fated. He was free. And in that freedom, he carved paths that never existed before. The rebellion crumbled. Not because she saw it coming, but because she felt it coming. Trusted. Adapted. Became more than a seer. She became alive. Years later, in a quiet garden floating above a city rebuilt, the Empress rested on a bench, eyes closed. Beside her, Dorian leaned against the tree, half asleep. "Do you still see the futures?" he asked lazily. "Sometimes. But I try not to look too far." "Why not?" She turned to him, the smallest smile curling her lips. "Because this moment is better than any vision."